Okay, welcome back. We're in the process of figuring out what type of paste that we want in this scenario. So the machine is good enough to show us that this is what it's going to look like if I use the third paste option. So once again, I go in here and I say text. Now it does absolutely everything I want except for the fact that it can't figure out that I want to space it at the end of what I just did. So I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to have to manually put in the space. Or perhaps since this is a poem, a comma? Mary had a little lamb, comma? I guess. And maybe since I don't start this with a sentence, I can go for lowercase there. Okay. Now, so that's basically copying and pasting. Now, sometimes clearly you want to copy and paste with the formatting attached. So those three options. One was use the source formatting, whatever it is. The second one is let me attempt to figure out how to merge the two different styles. You have one here it's bold and big, and you have one that's small. So I'm going to try to merge the two together in whatever makes sense to them. And then the third option is, of course, no, I don't want any formatting at all. Just give me the text and I'll fiddle with it. Okay, cool. So that's a very simple kind of a cut and paste operation. Now let's say I didn't like this font anyway. So I want to change it to a font that you maybe have heard of before. You've probably heard of Times Roman. So in order for me to change the entire document to Times Roman, I'm going to have to highlight everything. Okay? Now, why do you think that the font size disappeared? See, it says Calibri 11, but when I light this up, it disappears. Why is that? Because what I have selected is two different fonts. You know, this one is 11 and this one is 26. So it didn't know what to do. So it just says, hey, I'm just going to let you tell me. Now, if you don't give it a size, it's going to assume that whatever size you have is correct. Now, this list of fonts is extensive. And you may not find exactly the thing that you want. For example, Times Roman might be called something slightly different. And so thankfully they're in alphabetical order. So I get down here and I get Times New Roman, and I go, okay, that's probably the one that I want. So I click on this, and it does give you a highlight to show what it's going to look like. And I say, okay, cool, that's the one. So now my document is in Times New Roman. Okay, cool. Now you do have to kind of be careful now, because the part that I've highlighted, which is essentially the entire document, correct, is now in Times Roman. But if I was to take the cursor and click somewhere down here and do a return key, it's possible that I have stepped outside of that and it would go back to the old font. So you really have to make sure that when you lasso all this text, you get it all. Because if you lasso this much of it and it kind of looked right, but as soon as you hit the return, it would give you the original font. Okay, so we did it correctly, and so we're okay. All right. Once again, let's say that you have a bunch of folk that have standards that they want you to do. And they say, you know, the first line of every paragraph should be indented. Now, there are some standards out there that still exist today that are so archaic that they haven't caught up with technology. For example, I know of an organization that even today says use 5 spaces at the beginning of a line to indent, okay? Because in the day, they were using 10-pitch type on a typewriter, and 5 spaces was a ½ an inch, okay? So they didn't say do it a ½ an inch, they said do 5 spaces. But in word processing, if I go to here and I type in 5 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is not a ½ an inch. That's not even close to a ½ an inch. So what I want to do is I want to do something different. So I'm going to get rid of those spaces, and to make something go away, you highlight it and hit the delete key on the keyboard. Okay, cool. It's gone. Now, I'm going to hit the tab key right where I'm at. Doink. And now I have a ½ inch. Well, how do I know it's a ½ inch? Well, you're just going to have to trust me, so to speak. Or you could turn on some more features to allow you to see where you are, how big the document is, and how many spaces that is, and is that really a ½ inch or not. So remember these little tabs across the top? Well, one of them down here is View, and I kind of like the View guy. I click on him, and there's some check boxes. One of them is, would you like to see a ruler at the top? Yes, I would. I want to see if that really is a ½ inch. And now I can tell that's 1 inch, 2 inch, so it's a it's an 8.5 by 11 page with 1 inch margin on either sides, which leaves me 6.5 inches. Cool. And I can eyeball that and see that that's lined up exactly on the ½ inch mark. Hooah! Now I typically leave the ruler up, okay, on all my documents. The only time I would ever turn it off is, if I was getting a little crammed for space. I had a really small screen, like I have a laptop with a tiny little screen. I might want to not have the ruler just because it takes up a little bit of valuable resources. But when I'm authoring a document, that's kind of sort of the way it works. Okay, one more thing. You probably have noticed this little lightning bolt. And the lightning bolt is kind of a blessing and a curse. I'm going to go to here, and it says autocorrect options. And it says, would you like me to change this back to a tab? Because I hit the tab key. Okay, I hit the tab key. And then what it did is it looked at it and said, I bet they really don't want a tab. I bet what they really want is an indentation. So they actually converted it to me. Cool? Now, I will tell you, I usually just ignore that. Let's move on to doing bullet list. So I'm just going to hit the return here to go to a new paragraph. And so once I get a new paragraph, I can type some text. Now notice now, when I first started the document, when I hit a return, it went all the way flush to the left margin. You guys remember that? But now it moved to that indentation mark because the machine assumed that I wanted indentation rather than a tab. So now it's indenting from now on. And once again, personal preference, you may find that helpful, you may find that frustrating. So I'm going to say something like, this poem is, colon, and then I want to give a list of things, attributes of this thing. So once again, I'm just going to hit the return, which it thinks is a paragraph, is too short. I'm going to hit return. I don't know. Kinda silly. Doesn't make any sense. Okay, so what I've done is I've written 3 lines, and the machine thinks these are paragraphs because I hit the return key every time. So what I want to do now is I want to take that and I want to make a bullet list out of that. Well, the first thing we have to do is get our tabbed view back to the way it was, which is way back here on home. That was the default one. And in there, under paragraph, they have this little doodad here, which talks about bullets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to light up the 3, no, I'm not lighting up the poem part, but the 3 things that I want to turn into bullets, I light them all up, and then I just go here and I just click. And doink, it automatically puts what I have selected into a bullet list. Now this bullet list will continue on its own. So for example, if I put the cursor right here and start typing, the machine is gonna sort of think, I bet he meant to continue this doing a bullet. So let's just give it a whirl. I'm gonna hit the return key and say, yep, it did a bullet. So how the heck do you get out of doing a bullet? I mean, let me tell you how I do it. It's probably not the correct way. It's I just hit the return one time to get to a new line and then another time. Okay, so 2 times. Boom, boom. Which means the first one was it tells the machine, create me a new bullet. And then you hit the return the next time and it goes, yeah, I kind of sort of bet that's not what he had in mind. He probably meant to stop doing that. Okay? So there we go. Now, let's say, for example, that I didn't like the indentation of my bullet. Instead of having the text start, right now the text is right at the 1 inch mark. And I really wanted the text to start at the half-inch mark, the same as my indentation for the paragraphs. Okay? So now we're going to change indentation. Alright, so what I do is I light up whatever it is I want to change the indentation on, which obviously is these guys. And then right in here, under paragraph, they have increase or decrease indentation. And it's going to move it one little notch at a time until I get it. Oh, okay, that was a little weird, but I finally ended up with the text being lined up exactly the way I wanted it. I did have to go past where I wanted and to get it back. Now, take a look at this part of the screen right here, okay? When I increase, see what's happening is I'm moving 1/4 of an inch. It increments. So that's what's actually happening when I hit the indent. I could go here and fiddle with these guys directly, but that's actually for another class. Okay, so what I've done is I've highlighted a bunch of text, I've turned it into a bullet list, and once I got the bullet list, I've used the indentation tools to kind of nudge it around a little bit and get precisely what I wanted. Okay, let's say for example that I don't know, I'm going to change something here. I don't remember what the next line is. Okay, so now I have some text. And once again, I go here and I say, that's dumb, I'm going to delete that. So I just highlight this guy. Now, there's lots of ways you can delete. You can hit the delete from the keyboard, or I'm going to do a right click with my mouse. And there's a gazillion little options here. These are kind of sort of the same options that appear up here on that tool strip going across. It's just shorter. Okay, so just like before, we had cut, copy, and paste options, and they give me all the paste options I can see, just like we did before. That's pretty cool. They give me the font, paragraph stuff, how to do bullets, numbering, styles. Okay, kind of cool. So I'm just going to say cut, and now it's gone. And then you go, oh no, wait, that's not what I wanted. Well, I could do a paste, that'd be one way. Or I can hit the undo button. Now, I've hit the undo button a couple times, but it's way up here in the corner. Let me zoom in. Alright, the undo button is this blue guy. Okay, so that's my undo. And undo just undoes something. Well, then you go, wait, I changed my mind. I want it gone again. Well, this is the redo button. So undo and redo, depending on which way the arrow points, okay? And redo would just make it go away again. So you could do this all day long. Woohoo! Back and forth, back and forth. So this is undo and redo. Okay. I'm going to do another one of these guys trying to make the things line up exactly right one more time. So I'm going to put my mouse cursor down here, and we're going to create another bullet list. Here is another bullet list. Because that was a little odd, because when it moved to the left margin, it moved in half-inch increments. But when it moved towards, did I say that right? It moved towards the right margin, it moved in 1/4 inch increments. And so I wanted it to go over, looked like to me, 1/4 of an inch, but I had to go over 1/2 inch and I had to go back 1/4 inch. So, here we go. Let's just do 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now I don't have any other indentation going on, so I'm kind of curious to see what this is going to do. So I'm going to light this up, I'm going to hit the bullet, and it did. It did exactly what I thought it was going to do. It did, you know, it did the 1/2 inch the way I would expect. So one more time, if I hit this, it should move over 1/4 of an inch at a time. Yep. 1/4 of an inch at a time. And if I do this, it's going to move back 1/2 inch at a time. Yeah, that's how it doesn't line up. You have to kind of, so you have to kind of corral it in. If you want to go this way, it goes slow. You want to go this way, it goes back, it goes somewhat faster. Okay, cool. Actually, this is a good place to stop for the 15-minute mark. We'll pick this thing up again in just a few.